Hello, and welcome to Humans of AI. I'm very pleased to welcome Kai Jauslin as our guest today. Kai is an interaction designer, software and AI developer with a strong track record of creating digital and spatial experiences for cultural, arts, and research institutions. Together with Internet Archive Europe, he helped shape the Websites van Nederland, a web archiving display installation that turns web archives into interactive public experiences. Kai, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with how this idea first came about and how it has grown beyond the Dutch borders, what we call the spark. You've spent much of your career at the crossroads of interaction design and cultural heritage. And how did those experiences lead to this project? And could you also tell us how it has been growing beyond the Dutch borders?
The project goes a little way back. So it's all started in 2019 with the Swiss National Library. I was doing a project there for the digital born access to digital born objects. And part of that was the Webarchive Switzerland. So in this project, we generated lots of screenshots for the first time, screenshots of archived web pages. And as a side project, I thought, oh, it would be nice to put something on the wall to show how big everything is, and to visualize this thing, because back then nobody knew that there was a Webarchive Switzerland. It was like the public doesn't really know about that, so that's a problem. So how can you show that something like this exists? How can you present an archive to the public? So that's the background of the project, and it then became like, from this side project, it should have been shown at the Museum Night 2020 in Bern as a, like, to show the public, and this got cancelled because of the COVID crisis. And then they decided to make it a real project. So it got published on the web, and there were some legislation changes so that small versions of the screens can be published, and things like this. So that's how it became a project. And finally, there was this installation in the big central reading room in the Swiss National Library in Bern, so you can access the project. So for me, it was great doing this installation, because I myself, I worked 6 years at ETH Library in Zurich. So I'm a librarian myself. So I understand the language, I know the problems, I know about metadata, but I also like to try out the mix between design and technology. So this was a great project to start. So I like to work in close collaboration with the institutions. Like it's a together. It's not like that my company just does a project, but we work in direct exchange and in a joint process. So I think that's part of it, what makes it special. Bruce Kale, the founder of the Internet Archive, was visiting Switzerland, and he was visiting the Swiss National Library, and Barbara Signori, head of the department, showed him this installation, and he said, oh yes, I want to have this. So that's how we came into contact. And when he founded Internet Archive Europe, when the reopening of the Internet Archive Europe in Amsterdam, so we decided that this would be the ideal occasion to do a new installation and to do a new project to show the websites from Netherlands. So that's how it came to Europe, from Switzerland to Europe and to the Netherlands. In general, I only work with open source project, or I mostly work with open source technology. And also this project is open source and can be reused. So that was also part of the deal, that this thing that started at the Swiss National Library, also the code will be made open source. This was actually quite an interesting process, because the National Library had to open up that code that was part of that project and say, yes, we want to support this and we want to make this public and we want to have this project. So without their support, it would not have been possible to make these websites for Netherlands. So in this way, I didn't have to create everything from scratch, but the code from Swiss National Library could be reused.
So this is what I would call a strong example of best practice, which brings us to the second part of the podcast, impact, and what AI enables. So your project visualizes archived websites through screenshots, allowing people to move back in time. How does AI help turn millions of these snapshots into something people can easily navigate and explore, for example, with a joystick? And beyond this installation, what broader role do you see AI playing in digital preservation and public engagement with data and our collective memory?
So in this project, we started at the data level, we started mostly from scratch. We had like 80,000 domain names, and we were looking at the archives, at the pictures of the archives, and we realized that search does not work just from scratch, because people search for names, search for companies, search for topics maybe. But if you try this just on images, it will not work. You need some kind of metadata, page titles or page descriptions, and you can either try to extract it from the HTML source or the code or somehow, and it can get difficult. And so what we did to make this just work is we took AI, we took an open source vision language model and analyzed all these 80,000 images and told the AI to extract title, metadata, translate everything to English, because we have mixed language. We have the websites for Netherlands have partly English, partly Dutch language, sometimes maybe also other language. So the AI translated this to like a common data model, which we feed to a local index service, a search index, and that will be searched. So AI enabled us to make a common ground for search, like to build on data we didn't have. So it may sound a little bit strange to generate data in this project, but it was really what helped break through to enable the search. The voice feature is a second AI feature that is like also translating between any language that is spoken into the microphone to the common ground that is then searched. And so this is kind of a conversational UI. I think there is room for improvement. So I would like to improve it a little bit to have a more conversation with the archive. And this is what is already possible with the technological implementation that is in place now. So currently, the voice AI goes to OpenAI, where it does all the translation and the prompting, and then it issues a function call to go back to the local search index and display exactly the results that the user wants to see. So that's when you see the stars, the sky, and when you can zoom in again.
So I would say that all of that seems to be reasonably easy in the sense that you're technologically savvy, the technology is there, it's maturing, it's doing great things. But I imagine that there have been challenges. Based on your experience in Switzerland and the Netherlands, how do you see these challenges shaping the use of AI with cultural heritage materials? And if you could change one thing to make it easier to create AI for culture and knowledge, what would it be?
Okay, so I think one problem is that public institutions have problems showing this installation because of it's a gray zone in the legal way. So actually the collection of this material is may not be fully legal, or it may be, but nobody really knows. So it's difficult to show material if you don't have the clear indicator from the owner of the material. So and websites that were online, maybe you don't even know who was the owner of the website. It was collected 15 years ago, and nobody knows anymore what this was, and no contact is available. So there's a legal problem showing even screenshots of these pages. Although all the big corporations, of course, they already have this data, they're using this data commercially. So I think there's a discrepancy between what public institutions can do and what big corporations can do, and what we as small companies can do. So I think that's like kind of a challenge we have to work with. And the other challenge I already mentioned, the data quality. So sometimes we just have a screenshot, or we have country metadata that has 20 variations that needs to be normalized. So that's where AI can help to build. So data quality is really a problem, and data availability also. Although actually all data is open data, or like it may even be declared as open data, but it's not really available as a data set. So you have to go yourself and harvest using slow APIs. You have to harvest the data. And I think that's a restriction that limits the usage of AI through, like in the public and also for small companies. And I think that's because sometimes there are legal restrictions on the material. Publishers don't want that people download the whole batch of material, but just even if the individual images are for free, so they can be downloaded, but there is like they make it difficult so that you can train AI and that you really can work freely with it. This is also true for video materials, for broadcasting, that there is a huge open archive, but it cannot be really used for training, or there are like restrictions that it may not be used for, it may not be sent to AI corporations.
Okay, let's go for a positive vibe and look at the future. Where do we go from here? What's next for you and the Web Archive display projects? I believe other countries are in the pipeline and new AI features are emerging. How do you see AI bringing collections to life in the future? And additionally, with your experience, what advice would you give to those who want to make AI more human-centered and culturally meaningful?
Okay, great. So I didn't want to be too negative about the progress, because things are changing. I mean, things are changing towards open data, and that's great for us to work with. So But in concrete, for the Websites for Netherlands project, we have a lot of things planned. So the next thing will be Canada. So it will grow across the ocean. There will be a Canadian version of this project. And there's also work on a new pilot with the KB National Library in Netherlands, which will work more closely with the legal aspects. And there is also work planned to do more time slices, because we realized that people they're searching for historical things. They want to know, how was it back in 2000? How did websites look then? So what we're planning is to do time slices that you can dive into a grid in 2000 and directly see how this looked like. Also, there is work in progress on improving metadata, like adding AI topic classifications. So I don't know if you have seen, but now the websites are arranged in topics. So it's like a geographical map, but you don't see the topics. So now next step will be to add topic names. So you see, we have the libraries corner, we have the library's country, we have politics, and so you can dive in more like play around with it on a topic level. And I think in general, AI enables some kind of lateral thinking. So it enables us to build connections and to build upon these connections between data. I think when I watch the field of coding and design right now, what's happening is that they are merging together. So AI is enabling tools to quickly build prototypes for specific use cases. And with prototypes, I don't mean they don't work, but it's like you build a very, very specific application that was not possible to build before because it was too cost expensive or it took too long. So with AI, we will have the possibility to build applications with open data for expositions, for maybe just for one day, and they will be fun. So it will not be very generic applications that can do everything, but with AI we can do the very specific thing. And I think that's both for computer scientists and designers, that's interesting because they can both do it. On coding level, you can do more UI, and on design level, you can do more coding. So it's not designers have to learn how to code, but they will be able to just do it with AI. And I think that will enable a whole range of new products and visual and gamified experiences.
Thank you, Kai. I really like this idea of democratizing coding and design so that smaller institutions and organizations can experiment without their budgets collapsing, especially given the financial pressure many memory institutions face today. As we come to the end of the podcast, I always ask my guests the same question. What is the key takeaway you'd like policymakers, institutions, and the general public to remember about Websites van Nederland and the future of AI in cultural heritage? Is there one thing they should take away? And if there is one, what should it be?
I think it's like go and play with data. So go yourself and build your own vision. You can see Websites for Netherlands as a playground to try out different methodologies, interaction, gaming. So it's like, so we are playing with open data and we are trying out what works, what does not work. And so I think people should try out more. So there is so much open data that can be used. It's it's still a little bit distributed, but it will grow together. And let's work on that.
That is a great closing. Let's work on that and let's build fun stuff in Europe and beyond. Thank you so much for your time, Kai.